Jamie and I are excited that our 300th episode is coming up, and we want to hear from you. We've set up a voicemail, and we want to know your favorite moments from the podcast, lessons you've learned, things that have inspired you and encouraged you, and things that you've implemented in your business because of the podcast. Let us know. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Nat Connors.
You too. Yeah, it was a great interview.
Yeah, we talked to Nat about being aware of the market, but basically not being controlled by it.
Yeah.
He does a lot of research. He's got all this data on the market, and it can be overwhelming. And we talked about how to filter it and use it to your advantage. Talked about authentic voice and how that helps you stand out. Lots of stuff like that.
Yeah. It was great. It was great. You guys are going to really enjoy it. And we are recording this on New Year's Eve. So we're some real party people.
I was like, are you doing anything? No, me either. Let's do the intro. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. By the time this goes out, it will be 2026.
It will be, yeah. First week in 2026.
Yes.
Crazy. So what's been going on with you?
We did some travel, went to see some family in between Christmas and New Year. So we just got back from that. It's really good. We got we had a puzzle, one of those wooden puzzles. You know, they have the little cut. They're all unique, and we obsessed on that until we got it done. That's about all we did was that and talk and eat. What about you? What have you been doing?
Oh gosh, just travel and family, and I'm at my mom and dad's this week, and it's the week after Christmas, and just lots of Christmas with the kids and all that. It was really fun. We had a great time.
Yeah, we did too. It's a good break. This will be we'll have had 2 weeks off when this comes back out. So it's been kind of nice to have a break, but we are gearing up for our 300th episode. And we have had a couple of people respond. We asked if you want to share your favorite moments and lessons learned or favorite guest or funny moments from the podcast. Please do that. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, we would really appreciate it. Please do that.
Yeah. There'll be a link in the show notes where you can leave a little voicemail for us, and it's only 90 seconds. So no pressure. You don't have to give a speech or anything, but we do want to hear from you and what have been some of your favorite things about the podcast.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And also I wanted to mention that I moved my branding workshop until January 24th. I don't know what I was thinking doing it the week during Christmas holidays, the week before Christmas. I really have no idea, but it is going to be January 24th at 2:00. You'll get the replay, and we'll have the link in the show notes. But I'm really excited about it. I feel like I've been doing and getting ready for it and stuff. I've been kind of doing some stuff and thinking about things, and it's helped me already. So hopefully it'll help people that take it. And I think you're going to walk away with some really tangible things to do. I'm glad about that. Yeah.
It's a good way to start the year.
Yeah. And actually this week I've been just doing some admin stuff. I worked on my website. I didn't have my new covers on my website. I've had those new covers almost a year and a half. So if you're feeling like you're, not on the ball, don't feel bad. I'm right there with you. But I got it together, had GPT evaluate it. It gave me it said it was good. There's things I could do, but it's going to require more time than I want to do right now. But I know some things I can do later, but it's functional and it leads people where I want to lead them. And so it's
You are not the only one who has an outdated website. That's very common because we focus so much on the retailers and sending traffic to the retailers. I went on my site, I think back for the new release, I was like, I need to put that on the homepage. The new release is coming out. And I had an event from a year before, front and center, below the fold. After you scroll down, it was like, join me at, and I was like, oh, that's embarrassing. So this is your reminder. Check your website, see what your book's covers look like in your event list. If it's from 2023, maybe update it like I had to do.
I actually had the wrong book linked for my lead magnet.
Yeah. Oh.
And I don't think they could get it because I think so they clicked on it.
Change things.
Yeah. That was pretty unfortunate. I've had some stuff going on. That's all.
You've been a little busy, so don't beat yourself up about it. Yeah.
It's fixed. It's fixed now. So anyway, but that's what I'm doing, getting ready, gearing up for the new year. And
I've been doing accounting, finishing off the books and everything, which I'm still using Xero, and I love it. It's so easy to do. It's just I have to get in there and do it. And obviously I've waited until the last day of the year to finish it off. But
you needed all the information. You didn't.
That's right. Let's look at it that way. So we don't have any new supporters this time, but thank you to all the supporters who just join us and inspire us to keep going. Yes. And I went through and looked. Let me see if I can find it here. We have, if you become a supporter of the podcast, we have over 15 exclusive episodes just for supporters. You can go back and listen to those. And I made a list of them to mention a couple because there's some interesting things in there. We did a lot of deep dives on tropes, enemies to lovers, the fish out of the water trope. We've interviewed a lot of people, got a little extra bonus, like with Matt Holmes, Ryder O'Malley, Jen Graybill, H. Claire Taylor, Inez Johnson. You and I have done a lot of episodes about archetypes and openings and how to avoid the saggy middle and things like that. So lots in there. Just wanted to mention that because we never really mention that. So
no, we don't. And we love our supporters. And as Joanna Penn says, it tells us that you like what we're doing and you want us to keep doing it. And we've been doing this a long time, y'all. We're about to have 300 episodes, 5 years. We're finishing our 5th year.
And we love it. The fact that there are other people who are interested in it and are willing to say, yes, I've received value from the podcast. I want to share back with y'all. That's wonderful.
Yeah. We should get on with the interview because it's great and you're going to love it. Happy New Year. And here is Nat.
Today, we are really excited to have Nat Connors here. Hi, Nat. How are you?
Kia ora koutou katoa, guys. Lovely to be
here. Thank you. Thank you. We're so glad you're here. We've been looking forward to having you on the podcast.
Aw, thank you.
So let me read your bio and we'll jump into the questions.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right. Nat is a small town romantic comedy writer, former medical scientist, and mostly former dance teacher, and creator of the Kindle Trends newsletter for genre fiction authors. Kindle Trends started when he got fed up with trying to make sense of the Kindle store, which we've all been there, and wanted a no-nonsense summary of the most important information. Nat shared it with friends and now wants to share it with the author community as a whole. Nat works at writing every day and uses his information to write, publish, and launch his own books, so it has to be focused, relevant, and actionable.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we should say that we have you on because Becca Syme recommended we have you on the podcast. So we have Becca to thank for this. Yeah. Well, tell us how you got started working with writers.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think as I'd sort of said in my bio, I started Kindle Trends because I was a writer. I write small town romantic comedy. I started in about 2016 or so, and I've been full-time more or less since about 2018. While sometime around 2018 or 2019, I was planning my next book and I was looking at the Kindle top 100 in romantic comedy. And I said to myself, why the heck can't I just get a downloadable spreadsheet of all of these titles? I think I was making a decision about pricing or something like that. And I thought, why can't I just download this stuff? Or it's on a computer. So I tinkered with things because I have worked in enterprise project management in computers many, many moons ago, before the invention of the wheel and fire and stuff. And I made a little thing so I could just sort of download some information about the top 100. And then I started sharing it with my friends because I've got a wonderful group of authors who kind of started at about the same time as I had. And they said, hey, can you do this for me in dark romance? Can you do this for me in Kindle short reads? And I kept on doing it. And then after a longer time than I want to admit, a light went on in my brain. And I said, maybe there's some, maybe more people will like this and maybe I could turn it into a service. So I had a few attempts at doing different things. And then around about 2020, I suddenly had an awful lot of time on my hands while I was sitting at home. Maybe you guys did too. And I thought, well, look, if I'm going to try this, I should try it now. And I hit upon the idea of a newsletter because there's a lot, as an author, I'm very conscious of the fact that we have an awful lot of apps and websites and tools and things to use. And our time is scarce, right? We want to spend most of our time as authors writing.
Mm-hmm.
But the one tool that is ubiquitous that we all have to interact with is, well, email. And so the idea for Kindle Trends was that it was something that would come to you, and it would come out 8:15 New York City time and be in your inbox on a Monday morning, or on the first of the month or whatever. And you could just look at the headlines if you wanted, just like the newspaper, or you could delve in sort of deeper and you could look at specific things. And I've tried to keep that kind of metaphor of being like the Wall Street Journal for working genre fiction authors. So if you just want to skim the headlines in 30 seconds, then you can do that. But if you want to dive in deep to a specific issue or a specific aspect, then there's an awful lot of traceability, and you can go and say, okay, well, why is this happening? Why are these prices different? Look at that cover. Why is that cover there when it's so different to all these other covers? Because one of the things that I'd like to talk about later on, I guess, is how we can make a lot of general statements about the market, and that's cool. But what I think is really actionable and useful for authors is much more specific stuff about our niches, or what I call our neighborhood. But we can get to that.
Sounds good. One of the questions we will get back to the details, digging into the details of this. But one of the questions we like to ask people who support the indie community is, do you have any aspirations to write? But obviously you do, because you're already a writer. So tell us a little bit about what you write.
Well, I write small town romantic comedy, and I say that I'm about 25% on Kindle Trends. The reality is, at the moment, it's probably closer to 50%, because I'm in the middle of doing a lot of kind of development stuff to make it better and all of that. But the thing for me always is that mostly what I want to do is write, but I really like helping other authors, and I get a lot out of it. I've gotten to meet all these awesome people like Becca and Steph and Jen and you guys, and all of my friends in the author community. They have helped me hone my own writing enormously, because I see, this is something that I think I didn't realize about author services, was that you meet so many really good writers that it casts your own work into perspective. And that, I think, is actually very valuable, because whenever I get down about something not working for me, if it's creatively or business-wise, I see someone else who's doing something completely different that I could never do, and yet being really successful at it. And that makes me think, well, okay, so there's not, and one of the things that I got out of talking to Becca, obviously, is there's no one right way to do anything. And in fact, there are many paths to success. And seeing, you can tell yourself that, but if you actually see it, then it's quite reassuring.
Very good. Well, what do you wish authors knew about Kindle Trends, about what you do and what Kindle Trends can offer them?
Yeah, well, so, you had the questions that you sent were really interesting, and I had a great think about them, and I talked to Becca and stuff. And one thing I wish authors knew generally is that when it comes to market awareness, there's a lot of analysis and asking questions about what's useful. I always say I have no time for what I call chin stroking data analysis, where you look at a chart or something and you stroke your chin and you go, yes, very interesting. Maybe you've got a goatee and a turtleneck sweater, whatever. And, and you go, and you feel enlightened, and then you go back to doing exactly what it was you were going to do anyway. And my mantra is always that if some kind of analysis doesn't help you with a creative or business decision, that is, it doesn't help you make that decision or support what you're doing or challenge it, then it's not useful, and I don't have any truck with it. So I always promise people everything in Kindle Trends is there for a reason, and it's useful to somebody. If it might not be useful to you at the stage in your author journey, but it's useful to somebody. And if it's not, I don't have it in there. So two things. One, I'm quite ruthless about what goes into Kindle Trends and why it's there. Two, that this isn't a sort of one and done, here is the truth, now go back to your regularly scheduled programming kind of a thing. It's very much a matter of constantly asking questions about what would be useful. What are the decisions that people are trying to make when you break them down to a really fine level? So I spend a lot of my week talking to authors in different areas, saying, what's bugging you? What are the decisions you need? And some of them are obvious, like, how should I price my books? Should my cover look like this, or should it look more like that? Is it time for me to recover because I've got these covers and they are now 4 years old and they're beautiful and my existing readers love them? But is it time for me to invest in recovering? Should I move into audiobooks? Those kinds of questions. But they're not universal across genres, as we know, and they're also not universal across people. You've got to try and find a way of giving people help to answer their own questions. That's the other thing I guess I would like people to understand is none of this is me telling anyone what to do. Instead, it's very much empowering people to make better decisions and helping them feel better about their relationship to the market. And we'll talk about the market a bit more later on.
Now, I think you come at this from a different perspective than a lot of the industry professionals we talk to, since you are an author and you have a background. You're familiar with all the things that we do as we write and publish books. But is there anything you wish you'd known about just in general, indie publishing or working with indie authors from the provider side?
Yeah. Also, two things. I was going to say for my own writing, and I'm sure you'll hear this from a lot of people, I wish I'd known when I started how long it would take to find my style and how long it would take to get better, basically. I'm sure you've heard, and I know Steph has said this to me, a lot of variations of that thing, that if I'd known how many books it was going to take before I had a hit, I would have felt a lot better about the ones that weren't a hit.
Yeah, that's perfectly normal, right? That happens to almost everyone.
Yep. But you have to go through that kind of pain, I think, before you truly believe it. Because I've heard that from many, many keynote speakers over many years, and it still took a long time for that to get through my thick skull. So that's kind of one side. From the author services, the working with other authors perspective, I guess it would be, I wish I'd realized how diverse people's attitudes to the professional part of their work are, and how that's okay. And in fact, it's quite good. So when and Becca will laugh at this, because when I started, I kind of assumed that most people thought the same way I did about the business aspect of what they were doing. And Becca and I had a lot of hilarious conversations where I would say, but doesn't everyone do this? And Becca would actually burst out laughing and say, no, dude, everyone does not do that. You are a special snowflake. And I was like, are you sure? And then I was like, well, you've coached thousands of authors, so all right. I guess I have to.
So she probably does know.
Yeah, she does. I actually have to shut the heck up and listen to her, right? So what I'm trying to say there is different people have very different attitudes to, not just to how professional they are. It's not that simple. It's not just like a ladder, right? It's just different people feel different ways about what they want out of their business. And that's actually a good thing. It's good for diversity in the industry in terms of this is one of the contributing factors to the fact that there's a lot of different paths to success. So what does that diversity mean for me? It means that I have to account for people who will see different things in the market and will take different messages out of it in terms of their own work. And that if I'd realized that from the beginning, then I think maybe I would have changed some of my teaching approach and stuff like that. So a lot of what I'm doing now is making it much more clear to people that they don't have to take anything particular out of being aware of the market, that being aware of the market doesn't have to be a confining or a constraining thing. It's not telling you what to do. Instead, it's helping you decide how you want to position yourself relative to what else is going on, what other authors are doing, what readers are getting into, what media readers are consuming as well as books. Because we know that readers do other things as well as read, right? They ride the bus, they watch sport, they go to movies, they listen to music. Right. And those things, of course, they all inform what they like in books, And we don't have to be aware of absolutely everything, which is something I want to talk about later on. But we have to know that stuff's out there, and getting people comfortable with that. I guess that's the thing. Maybe one of the big things I've learned from Becca is it's really important to help authors feel comfortable with what they're seeing, as well as just giving them the information and saying, here you go, man.
Yeah, I think it's similar to a few years ago. The overall philosophy was, you must write every day. And now we're at this place where you can do that if you like doing that, but you don't have to do that. And I do remember, the word would get out that such and such genre was hot. And if you wanted to be a success, you need to write in this genre. And so, a lot of people will go over there and try that. And I think we're to a point now where everything's so splintered that you can do that if you want, but you don't have to. And there's not as much like pressure, I guess, to only do this and be successful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there is an increasing awareness that, as we were saying, many paths to success, but also that the idea of being very fast moving and altering what you're doing as a result of what you are seeing or what readers are picking up is really only one path. And that's okay for some people who have that skill, but it is not the only way of doing things. I think one of the things that happened was that people who did have that skill maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they made a lot of the news in the market. And so we heard about them a lot. But writers who were just tootling along, writing a few times a week and editing and putting out a lesser number of books and developing their brand and developing their craft, that isn't quite as exciting a thing in a way, but it may be just as successful and it may suit individuals just as well.
Totally agree.
Yeah. What do you see others doing that, and they think it's gonna like help, but it's really just, and they do it because they think they have to, but it's not producing results?
Yeah. So I guess there's a couple of things. One, which returns to something which I was talking about just before, was in an author services perspective, feeling like they have to know every aspect of their genre all the time. And this is something that I've been sort of talking about for, I don't know, maybe 12 months. I don't think you have to do that. And instead, I talk about what I call the neighborhood analogy. I think you have to know your author neighborhood. It's like you live in a city. You don't have to know what's going on every street on your city every day. Mostly, you just have to be aware of what's going on in your neighborhood. And your neighborhood is a few things as an author. It's your comps. Yep. It's your comp titles and comp authors, sure. But it's also the things that your comp authors are doing. It's the other media that your readers are consuming and what effect that's having on them and what they like about it and what they don't like about it. But it's a much more limited set of things. It might also be the visual language of covers in your subgenre. So within different genres, we know there's different sort of symbols and different visual language to indicate the kind of themes you're going to get in particular subgenres. Sarah, I was looking at your covers earlier in the week, and you do a fantastic job of, and I'm sure you know this, but you do a fantastic job of indicating within mystery the type of mystery that you are getting with a particular series. So the 1920s historical mysteries, one thing, the travel mysteries are another thing, the kind of small town ones are another thing, the culinary ones are another thing. And that's like 4 different subgenres within mystery, but crystal clear right from the thumbnail.
Well, that makes me feel good because
it's really good. Like,
I do struggle with that, but mostly that's following the designer's lead, like saying, this is what I want it to convey. And you're the expert because that's not me. I certainly don't do my own covers, but it's good to know. And it is something that's very specific to different subgenres, right? So you can have just a few little things that make your genre stand out from a culinary cozy is very different from a travel cozy. And you've got to have those signals,
Yep. So returning to your question, my point there is you don't have to know what's going on in every street in your city all the time. You just have to know about your neighborhood, and your neighborhood is the people who live in it and the buildings, but it's also when the trash gets picked up and where the potholes that haven't been fixed and all the little things. And what I am trying to get authors to do a lot is to reduce, I guess, what Becca calls overwhelm, and stop them from feeling like they have to master everything or know everything. And instead, you've probably got a general idea of what's going on across town, but what matters is what's going on outside, on your step. And so I get people to think in terms of finding their author neighborhood and how you can use Kindle Trends as part of that, but being aware of what's going on, so that's one thing. The other thing I think I wanted to pick up was I see a lot of people feeling like being aware of the market is confining or restricting. Like if I spend too much time looking at what other people are doing, I'm going to lose my originality or I'm going to accidentally plagiarize other people. I don't think this is true at all. But it's a legit concern, and so I want to respond to it sensitively. And Instead, what I want people to see is that market awareness, as I call it, is an ongoing process that sort of happens in dribs and drabs all the time when you're reading the newsletter, when you're looking at other people's books and stuff like that. It's not a one and done kind of research thing you do at the beginning of a book project. Instead, it's something that is continuous and it informs your craft. That's the other thing, is that for me and for some of my friends, being aware of the market actually is an inspiring and kind of innovating thing, because it helps me see what other people are doing. And I kind of go, wow, look at these awesome writers. Look at what they're doing. That's a great idea. And, sometimes I have a bit of professional envy. I'm like, man, I could have done that. Geez, that's great. And that's okay too, right? A little bit of, oh, crap, I wish I'd done that. That's also
be
good.
a motivator.
Right? There's nothing. Yeah, exactly. But what this means is it helps keep me fresh and it stops me from feeling creatively stale, because as much of an ineffable genius as I am, that was a joke, by the way, other people, other human beings actually have good ideas too, and so sometimes looking at other people's good ideas can help me feel better about my own ideas, and it can give me subsequent ideas. So the thing I really want people to see there is to feel that being aware of the market helps us choose our own position in relation to it. And that position could be largely out of it, right? That position, and that's valid, could be these people are all doing these things and readers evidently like it. But you know what? I think readers are going to really enjoy this. So I'm just going to do it. That's a perfectly valid thing to do. And I've never had much time for this sort of subtext that you have to do what other people are doing, because I don't think you do. I think it behooves us to be aware of what other people are doing and why readers are enjoying it. And the why is the important part, but also that helps us make smart decisions about where we're sitting in the market and why.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I'm one of those people that's much more not tuned into trends. Sometimes I'll see trends and stuff with covers, but as far as the way the market's going, I tend to just write whatever I'm going to write, and mine's more evergreen type stories anyway, so I don't really need to pay as much attention. But if you see what's going on, it's almost like counter programming in television, where they used to say, okay, this hour is sports, so this other channel is going to run, Pride and Prejudice or something, because you're trying to get
people who don't want that.
Yeah. So you can use it that way, which is an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I was listening to your podcast with Becca the other day, or one of your podcasts with Becca, and she makes a point. She has a sort of Nashville analogy, which actually stuck with me, which is like Nashville. There's a lot of really good creatives in the market, and it's tough to get noticed. It's hard, but it's also a space of great diversity. The news is not all bad, because it's a space of great diversity and constant change, and a lot of room for different people doing different things. It's just that there's a lot of really good people, and it's hard to find space for your work. So, I one of the other messages that I try and give people a lot is, yes, it's tough, but take heart, because there's lots of room for you to find your own voice. And there are people out there who are going to like your thing. It's just difficult.
Well, and it's tough for everybody. It's not just tough for you. It's tough for everybody. So it evens the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Have you work with a lot of different authors, you see a lot of different data as you look at all these details. Have you noticed any similarities between writers who've been successful over the long haul, in general?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that question, and I am afraid I have a rather boring answer, which is they are all very good writers who, to a person, have a relentless focus on improving craft. One way or another, explicitly or implicitly. Every top writer I have met is someone who, like, when you read their prose, now there are exclusions. There are sometimes there are people, I have to qualify that. Sometimes there are books you read and you think the prose is a bit leaden, or you think it's, that does happen. But I assert that they are actually pretty few and far between. And one of the things I want to talk about, if we have time, is that we tend to pay too much attention to outliers and not enough attention to the main body of what happens. And the main body of top-selling and successful authors are all very good writers who could easily write something else. and do a pretty good job. Maybe they wouldn't be as successful as they are in their favorite genre, but they could do something else. So if they are a top-selling fantasy writer, they could write a pretty good mystery. If they are a top-selling mystery writer, they could write a pretty good contemporary romance. It'd be good. So relentless focus on craft, one way or another, and being aware of the fact that the better you are as a writer and the better a book you put out, the more successful you are going to be. It's not the only thing, as we know, but it is a necessary condition. And, it's kind of a dull answer, but I say that to myself every morning, well, most mornings, which is like, just get better at writing, man.
Yeah, it's the basics, right?
Yep, because
it really is. Yeah.
Yep, I know, and it's a rather dull thing to say, but if people pick up the book and they love it and they think, man, this is awesome, when's the next one coming out? Then with the packaging stuff, and a lot of what I started off looking at was actually packaging in the broader sense, pricing, colors, blurbs, all of which are very important. But also what I'm interested in now is understanding how common classic themes are reinterpreted. And that's one of the things that I talk about a lot, is we know the themes that are going to be popular next year, because actually, spoiler, they're the ones that were popular last year, by and large. I know, bad news. But the question is, how are they going to be reinterpreted? What are the fine differences that are going to make people feel that this is a new spin on something that they've seen before? How are enemies to lovers stories in 2026 going to be different from enemies to lovers stories in 2024? Clearly, they're going to have a lot of similarities, but equally clearly, they aren't going to be exactly the same. And it's that fine detail. I believe that's what gets people to pick up books and stick with them. It's the old but new thing, right?
Gosh, that is true. The old but new. Well,
And,
what are some of the most common mistakes you see authors making?
Yeah, so one of the things I think I mentioned before was I think we pay a lot of attention to outliers and not enough attention to the main body of stuff. The analogy I have is you walk down the street and it's a sunny day and you see a cloud, and the cloud you see a lot of clouds, right? And they just look like clouds. And you see one cloud that looks a lot like William Shakespeare. And you're like, man, that cloud looks a lot like William Shakespeare. And for the rest of the day, you're thinking about that cloud that looked a lot like William Shakespeare. But do you think that has anything to do with William Shakespeare or his relationship to clouds? No, it's like it's all in your head, right?
Yeah.
All of the other clouds just looked like clouds. And this kind of sounds like a silly analogy, but the point I'm trying to make there is that we often focus on unusual outliers because, and it's a natural human thing, it's been studied a lot in sociology and social psych and behavioral psych, but in terms of making business decisions, as another top-selling author I know said, being an outlier is not a very good marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Understanding what the main body of people are doing helps you decide where you are in relation to it. You don't have to do it, as I always say, but it behooves you to be aware of it. So what I try to do a lot with Kindle Trends, bringing it back to that, is to focus less on individual books, because we can't say very much about individual books. It's very hard to say this book is successful because of X, Y, and Z, because this person could be dumping 10 grand a month into Facebook ads, 20 grand a month, and so X, Y, and that's something that's very difficult for us to see.
Right.
And there's a wide variety of other things. But instead, what we can do is to say, of this cohort of books, of this 100 or 200 books or whatever, we can see that most of them have these things in common. We can see that these themes are becoming more popular. We can see that this phrase is kind of becoming less common and this other phrase is becoming more common. You know what I mean? So a good example would be like the replacement of reverse harem in romance with Why Choose, and that was driven by Amazon fiat. But if you're looking at blurbs, you can see one of those terms kind of go down and the other one go up. And so in general, if we see these general trends, then that's something that's worth us putting our time into and investigating and saying, hey, why is this going on? If this affects me, what's happening? The other analogy I use here is about sharks, and it's another silly one, that if one person writes a shark romance and it shoots to the top of the Kindle store, maybe that's just a thing. But if 4 or 5 people all start independently writing about sharks in a romance context, then you can be like, hey, maybe there's a whole shark thing going on.
Shark subgenre. We laugh, but you never know.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's not a pick. Okay, I don't think this is going to happen, but hey, it might. It's just So the point is, if you have independent sources of people doing stuff, then that's maybe more indicative of a groundswell or like a grassroots thing that readers are switching on to, and I think that's more important in terms of making business decisions.
Very true. Well, let's talk about trends. So, do you see any trends that are kind of widespread that you could give us a touch on?
Good question. So, I mean, in terms of channels, and I think this is something that you will hear a lot of people saying, I see a lot more channels than in the past, by which I mean audio, I mean translations, I mean direct sales, those kinds of things. So to me, this is a bit of a two-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's great because there's so many more opportunities for us to get our books out to readers in ways that they like, and also and frankly to earn some more revenue from work that we've already done, and that's great. On the other hand, it's a lot of other things to think about, and I don't know about you guys, but I had enough to think about already. I wasn't really on board. Writing books is so easy, right? So it's a little kind of the author overwhelm thing that Becca writes about and talks about is very real. That now we have opportunities like direct sales, which are fantastic because you build a direct relationship with your readers and you get to keep more of the money. And you also get to understand what they're doing a lot more in terms of their behavior. Awesome. But also a lot more complexity in terms of setting it up and managing it and all of those, and a lot more decisions to make. One of the best pieces of advice I have ever heard here was from my friends, the Spa Girls, who helped me a lot when I was starting out. And they kind of said, just pick one or at most two channels and focus on them and make them work for you. Or if they're not working for you, then decide they're not working for you and drop them. Don't try and do every channel at once, because A, it won't work, and B, more importantly, you'll have a lousy time. You won't enjoy it, and you will feel like a failure, and that won't help anybody, So don't feel like you have to try everything. Just pick a couple of things. Doesn't really matter which ones, and then put them aside, try another thing, and so on and so forth. In terms of, I guess, more generally, the thing that people ask me about is themes in terms of what's going on in books, right? And the bad news here, and I actually have some animated plots of this, which we could maybe link in the show notes. What I have done is look at the most common themes in different high-level umbrella genres like romance, science fiction, mystery, and stuff over 12 months. So every month I got the top 200 books and plotted the most common themes, and I did that for 12 months like that. And the story is popular themes tend to stay popular. The things that were popular carry on being popular. Markets are not as trendy as we think they are. Sure, there are occasionally some breakout things, and one of the really obvious ones that won't surprise anyone is holiday as a theme spikes in the US around September or so because of Thanksgiving and then Christmas, right? So you see all these lines going like this, and then all of a sudden, zoom, holiday. And there's a big peak of holiday books of different kinds, right? So interesting, but not terribly surprising. What does this mean? It doesn't mean that there's no such thing as themes. What it means is that, like I said before, trends next year are going to be that the things that were popular last year are going to be popular again. However, the fine detail matters. So the fine detail about how certain tropes are going to be implemented, that stuff is what counts. And I'm working on that. I can't say anything terribly obvious at this stage, but what I'm hoping is that with Kindle Trends, people will be able to look at what's going on in their neighborhood and kind of make their own decisions about it. Does that kind of help? I wish I could say to people, write X and we'll all be rolling in cash, but it doesn't work that way. And you kind of knew that, right?
Yeah. Sadly, yes. But what do you see coming? I mean, can you look at the trends and see what's coming? I mean, I know you just said what's popular last year will be popular this year, but can you forecast ahead at all?
Yeah, I mean, marketing is difficult and it's not getting any easier.
No.
But I don't think, one thing I would like to say to people really clearly is I don't despair at being drowned in a tide of kind of low quality badly written books. I understand why people are concerned about that, and like I say, marketing's tough and it's not getting any easier. But I think a lot of writing, and I'm going to say something a bit contentious here. I read a lot of things about, is genre X going to be drowned in a tide of slop? And this happens a lot in Rome, in the area that I work in. And to be honest, I think a lot of those articles about genre fiction are actually a little bit condescending, because they imply that readers, romance readers in my case, are kind of vapid and undiscriminating, and that they will more or less read whatever is pushed in front of them. That's not my experience at all, and it is not the experience of any of my romance writing colleagues, many of whom are much better writers than I will ever be. I think that, again, while the marketing's difficult, I think that actually genre fiction readers are quite discriminating, and I think that they have quite clear ideas about what they like and what they don't, and they don't hesitate to share those ideas with us on reviews and on Goodreads and stuff like that. And to me, it's evidenced by what I was saying before. Everyone I know who is a successful author is a good writer. So for anyone who is worried that what's coming is a vast tsunami of cruddy books, I don't think that's the case. I think that, sure, there's going to be them. They've always been around, but I don't think they are the challenge for writers. I think the challenge for writers is going to be becoming the best version of who you are as a writer, cliche as that sounds. You had another one of my friends, Kimber York, on a while ago. She was talking about discovery writing. Kimber's awesome. And she had a phrase that really resonated with me, which was about being your authentic self as a writer. And I think that, like, if I had to say one thing for people next year, it would be focus on being your authentic self, but also work on making your authentic self a damn good writer.
Yep, I agree.
We like to ask everybody what they think the best thing has been that they've done to set themselves up for success.
Ooh, great question. Make friends with a lot of awesome writers.
Yeah. It's always a good thing.
Yeah, my colleagues. And you know what? If I can do it coming from Earth's most remote nation, true story, then people who live in more populated areas like Europe or the United States or Africa or Asia, you can definitely do it. So I have been privileged to have a network of writer friends who I talk to every day, many of whom I have never met in person. But I've spoken to them, every day since 2016. And they're some of my closest friends. And they have been, and I'm sure you guys are the same, they have been a support and comfort to me when things have been tough. They've challenged me because they've written awesome books. And I'm like, wow, if she can do that, then I can do that. And they've introduced me to other people and all of those kinds of things. And I'm not a terribly social person. I sit here in my upstairs bedroom most days. But I'm really serious when I say that finding your author tribe has been the single biggest thing for me. There's no way I'd be able to be where I am if I'd just been doing this using my own brain.
Wow, that's a great answer. So it's actually one I would say too, because
cool.
That is something that I believe very strongly in. But is there anything else we need to know about Kindle trends that we did not cover and you think people need to know?
I mean, the main thing is, you guys have probably noticed I'm not much of a salesman. I'm kind of a writer. I'm kind of a writer who has this thing because he wants to help other authors. But the thing that I would say to other people is that I'm ruthless about providing value for your $15 US a month. So it's free for the first month. You can choose as many newsletters as you want. There is no upselling, no premium tiers, no affiliate marketing, none of those, no advertising. I don't do any of those kinds of things because I don't like them. And if it is not useful for you as an author, like if it is not paying for $15 a month, I'll just give you your money back. That's why it's priced aggressively, is that this is a tool for working writers month after month, like a website or an email address. You could run your own website if you wanted, but why would you? You've got better things to do. Same thing here. And so my goal always is to make it so you get more than that much value every month. And I'll always do that no matter what.
Awesome.
Tell people where they can find you and all you're doing online.
Yeah, sure. Just kindletrends.com. And like I say, you can subscribe. First month is free. And I will email everybody. It's not that popular a service. So I email absolutely everybody with these fingers and talk to them. Because again, one, I like making friends. And two, it's really important for me to understand what is bugging people so I can make the product better.
Right.
And that's the main thing, is that I end up having a conversation with almost everyone who signs up about where they're at with their writing journey and what's useful for them, and how we can make the newsletters better to help. The other thing I guess I would say is that I have got a heap of new stuff coming, what I hope next year, which is going to add a lot of historical information. So one of the things that we've sort of been limited to doing is just kind of taking snapshots of this month and last month. What I want to be able to do, which I think will be much more useful, is give people a picture of what's happening over the last 3 months, because it's great to read about the books that came out this week, and I think sometimes that's valuable, but in point of fact, markets don't change that much or that quickly because it takes time to write books. Perspective, which sort of says, hey, sharks, going back to the sharks have been getting more and more popular for the last 3 months. Like every month for the last 3 months, they've been, the shark romances, that big guy with the fins and the muscles and stuff. Yeah, maybe you should check that out. So a historical perspective is going to help a lot. And what I'm hoping is that early next year we'll have a lot more of that. The other thing is this is going to be cool and fun to talk about because we can look at changes in cover designs. We can say, hey, what did cozy mystery covers look like 12 months ago? What do they look like now? Why? So a big part of what I'm trying to do now, like with the infographics, and maybe we can link to a couple of them, is to help foster some collaborative discussions within a genre community. So if people are into urban fantasy, then I want them to, they can take the urban fantasy infographic, which I've got now, and they can get round and have a talk about what they see. Different people will see different things, but it gives us all like a common base of evidence to start from, Like when you're another analogy, Jamie, I understand that you're a football fan. We all watch the same game, right? We all read about the same stats in the newspaper, and we have an argument about who the best players are and who should get picked for what and yada yada. But we're starting from a common base of evidence. And what I want for authors is for people to have a common base of evidence about what's going on in the market. And then we can have a big argument.
I love that. That's really great. And I think that that would be super helpful for a lot of people, but I have really gotten a lot. I've got a whole page of notes here out of this discussion. So thank you. And we just really appreciate you being here today.
You're most welcome. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, guys.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And we will have all those links in the show notes, and you can find those at wishidknownforwriters.com. And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to that same link /support. We'll see everybody next week. Bye.
Bye.